Our Path to Infinite Abundance, Introduction to Food Forests by Tutu, co-creator of Aloha Food Forest. Welcome to your path to infinite abundance. Nature is infinitely abundant and expanding. Our path to infinite abundance is in learning to model Mother Earth's forests when we grow our food. Learn to garden by imitating nature's ancient ways. Forget about fertilizers, insecticides, fungicides, and tilling by the sweat of your brow. By growing a forest of nut and fruit trees among layers of veggies, herbs, berries, and edible roots that provide healing food, you will harvest a continuous abundance of healthy food that nourishes your body into well-being and brings our planet and her wild creatures back from the brink of disaster. On this path, you'll discover how the plant and animal kingdoms in a food forest continually grow and expand in mathematically perfect patterns, freely growing food and supplies for us and the wildlife. Smart investing. A food forest has the best return on investment. Planting a food forest turns out to be a fabulous investment. The return on investment received approaches infinity over time. What other investment approaches infinity? Nature grows in patterns that expand infinitely, as in the fractal patterns in tree branches, in the designs of leaves, flowers, and roots, and the life force potential of seeds. I've spent the last 10 years observing and enjoying nature in action as I tend my food forest. Originally, I simply hoped to enjoy the juicy fruits, the tasty nuts and seeds, the lovely fragrances, and the healthy herbs. That is fabulous abundance right there. But that was only the beginning of the wealth I discovered. The plants in the food forest also reproduce themselves exponentially, so the abundance expands exponentially. The branch of mathematics called calculus deals with exponential increases where numbers get bigger fast and approach infinity. This best describes the kind of math I see in the food forest every day. Imagine a number line on an XY axis, and the number line is climbing rapidly. The function of e to the x. Seeds, which grow in great abundance in the food forest, are the best example of exponential growth. Here's one example of this phenomenon: a romaine lettuce plant that grew from one single seed. As it matured, we enjoyed eating the leaves of the young plant. After a few months, the plant began putting energy into producing seeds, so the foliage yellowed and these puffy white flowers appeared. Inside of each flower is about 10 or 20 seeds. Yes, I counted several of them. Ironically, I've been an accountant for over 30 years, and it strikes me funny that a nickname for accountants is bean counters. I guess I really was a bean counter that day. I picked off most of the flowers and seeds to plant elsewhere in the food forest, and a couple of days later, a new batch of flowers grew back to replace the ones that I picked. I took a picture of the second round of flowers that replaced the first round. And in the picture you can see hundreds of flowers full of seeds. One seed can grow into thousands of seeds of its kind in as short as 3 to 6 months. Let's do the math on the return on investment you get from a well-planted seed. Let's say, as in the picture above, that you invested one lettuce seed by planting the seed in the ground and letting it grow for a few months. Then you harvested 1,000 seeds that grew from that lettuce plant, so you ended up with 1,000 seeds. Here's the simple return on investment formula. ROI is the gain from investment minus the cost of investment divided by the cost of investment. And this formula was copied from Investopedia.com. If you get 1,000 seeds from growing one seed, then you get 999 more seeds. You see, 1,000 seeds harvested minus one seed invested is 999 seeds gained. Now 999 seeds divided by one seed, which is the cost of your original investment, you get a 999% return on investment. Divide the 999 seeds you got by the one seed you put on, and there's your ROI percentage. A 999% return on investment for growing a seed in under 6 months. Compare that to the stock market, where you can expect to average 8% return on investment per year. That's if you're lucky, and if you keep your money invested in the stock market for 30 years. But there's also the possibility that you might lose some or all of your money. Imagine how many seeds you might have after a few years of planting seeds. You could plant 1,000 lettuce seeds, and if most of those grow, you end up with 1,000,000 seeds. Are you getting the idea that nature expands infinitely using seeds? It is remarkable and surprising that hardly anyone talks about it. Let's say you plant a tree instead of a seed. You will receive fruit and seeds from that tree for decades. We are grateful to have several fruit trees that are over 40 years old and are still producing fruit. Imagine, someone else planted them years ago, and we continue to enjoy the fruits of their small investment of digging a hole, planting a tree, and nurturing it to maturity. It's wonderful. Our macadamia tree is around 20 years old and still gives delicious nuts. Plant a fruit or nut tree, get fruits or nuts for generations. Another excellent example of nature's expansion is multiplication through roots. For example, bananas expand their roots into the soil and pop up new banana plants. This growth isn't exponential like seed growth, but expands fractally or multiplies with repeated additions of new banana shoots popping up in a widening area around the original banana plant. New banana trees grow from the roots of existing banana trees, and then baby banana trees grow from the roots of those bananas, and then babies grow from their roots. It's bananas! There's no doubt that a food forest produces a fabulous abundance of good food for people. Everyone talks about eating healthier food, and this is a simple, direct way to get healthy food. The food forest also produces a healthy habitat full of good food for many animals. The wild animals feed on plants and on each other, and by doing so, they create a stable ecosystem. We have seen coyotes, rabbits, squirrels, gophers, lizards, birds, worms, crawling insects, flying insects, spiders, possums, raccoons, mice, rats, snakes, skunks, and cats. They go about their business doing what they were born to do. We welcome them all and feel glad that these creatures enjoy life here in the food forest too. Forest gardens work in harmony with planet Earth's natural processes. If you want to see real abundance, look to a food forest rather than an interest-earning financial account. I give you this food for thought. There is more than enough food for us because everything growing expands. Chapter 2, My Path. Learning about Mother Nature's infinite abundance is my path. Today, after a life journey of changes, I am celebrating living for over 7 years on my first ever food forest, and it's the best part of my life so far. In the 1960s, my parents planted a garden on the site of our suburban tract home. I was very young, but I still remember how delicious the peas and corn tasted. I've been fascinated with gardens ever since. I've grown potted houseplants in dorm rooms, small sidewalk gardens by my apartment, various backyard gardens, a public memorial garden, and even a 5-acre garden where I established a hedge from seed and planted trees. Along with practicing gardening, I enjoy studying horticulture and landscape design in courses, books, and websites. I even worked at an Armstrong Garden Center store for a while, and that was fun. My passion drives me to continuously grow gardens, but eventually I moved away from every one of them. Each time I felt sad about losing a garden, I found another better garden in my future. After losing the last garden, I prayed for a garden with a big tree so I could experience a mature garden. Because I work hard and the universe is full of miracles, in 2011, during the mortgage meltdown in the USA, I had an accounting job and qualified to purchase an affordable, small, older house with a large yard growing 7 established fruit and nut trees. My prayer was answered even better than I expected. The house has a huge oak tree that is over 100 years old, 2 existing pecan trees, a sweet lime tree, a macadamia, Valencia and navel oranges, and tangerine trees. I now get to experience the thrilling abundance from the trees that someone else planted long ago. What a gift those homeowners gave to the future generations by planting fruit and nut trees. Through the miracle of the internet, I discovered sustainable permaculture methods of growing food without much effort. By imitating a natural forest, I had stepped onto a path of infinite abundance as a stream of food, healing herbs, and flowers flowed. Holy moly! Now, like a patch of heaven on earth, there's more than enough nutritious food growing for us to eat and to share with the native wildlife. It boggles my mind that everyone doesn't have a food forest already, because it's so easy to grow a food forest and receive unending generations of food. Growing a food forest, like any other goal, requires us to have a plan and execute the plan. I'm writing this little book for you, dear heart, because I think you would love having an infinite supply of healthful food growing around you, too. I think everyone needs an infinite supply of nutrient-dense, healing food growing nearby. Delicious, fresh, juicy food grows on the trees and bushes and creeps along the ground. It feels entirely like a Garden of Eden, where sacred animal and plant life forms surround you. I'm going to introduce you now to a word called biota. Biota is a word that means animal and plant life. In this book, I'll use the term biota to refer to the set of all plant and animal life forms, whether they are in the soil, on the land, in the water, or in the sky. When we speak of biota, we mean any form of life other than human beings. Technically, I'm guessing we humans are also biota, but let's keep it simple for this book and use biota to mean any life form other than a human being. One might say the plant biota that grows here on the food forest display delightful colors, beautiful designs, happy sounds, and heavenly fragrances. On top of that, I eat to my satisfaction from the many different delicious plant biota growing. Some folks have called growing your own food a peasant lifestyle, but I prefer to call it a pleasant lifestyle because I enjoy it so much. I still go out and buy meals sometimes But most often when hunger strikes, I walk out the door and pick a ripe, juicy, fragrant, delicious piece of fruit from a tree, inhale the fragrance, take a bite, and drink in the juicy goodness. I get happy because the fruit smells and tastes delicious and gives me the energy to get back to what I was doing. Food forest grown fruit is amazingly nutrient dense and satisfying. Oranges are my favorite fruit, and this 40-year-old orange tree is still producing the best navel oranges I've ever tasted. Did you know you can eat the peels too? They refresh your mouth as you chew them, and they fill you up better than the juice alone. The skin contains the citrus oil, which is useful for making body care products also. I use it in my homemade hair care blends for added fragrance and smoothing oil, and the dehydrated zest in my deodorizing powder blends. But that's a story for another book. And oh my, the bananas we grow in the food forest taste more flavorful than bananas in stores by far. Sweet and slightly tart, they have an intense banana flavor, and they have seeds. Sometimes the seeds are tiny, and sometimes they are bigger than watermelon seeds. The peels are deliciously sweet when dried and chewy like jerky. Bananas are good for body care too. We also have coffee trees that bloom with fragrant flowers and with ripening coffee cherries. We have enjoyed the freshest, purest coffee at harvest time. Coffee cherries have a coffee bean inside that is surrounded by a tough husk. The red fruit outside is good to eat too. It takes a lot of steps to process from harvest to sipping a cup of coffee, but it's fun to do. We also have Australian brush cherries, which grow on a tall evergreen tree that makes a beautiful hedge or windbreak on our west fence line. So it's a source of cherries for decades. Chickens eat these cherries too. They have a slightly astringent but pleasant taste with a pretty purple peanut textured seed inside. I ate them as a child, and I still enjoy them because they give me a boost of energy. When you taste the strawberries that grow wild on the forest floor, you'll experience real strawberry flavor. Our little strawberries dangle in the air rather than laying on the food forest once they grow to be a few years old. When they're new plants, their fruit would lay sprawled out on the forest floor, where crawling insects could quickly eat them. However, after a year or two, they grow taller stems that hold the strawberries up above the forest floor, and the insects don't go up the stems to eat them. That's something I learned by living on a food forest. We also have olives that we brine in garlic and salt water. They are deliciously different. We also pickle nopales cactus petals with our fresh onion and garlic, and they turn out great. We have nectarines and apricots, figs, pecans, macadamias, almonds, and many other things. You can include fresh produce when you create meal menus. Dinner cooked with ultra-fresh ingredients makes the best food available. Studies show that home cooking leads to happier and healthier families, lowered consumption of processed food, and longer life. For over 40 years, I've enjoyed cooking. Having fresh ingredients growing all around makes it fun and exciting to cook. Imagine for a moment that you want to cook a delicious meal for you and your family, so you go out into the garden and get your choice of ingredients. Potatoes, beets, carrots, sweet potatoes, zucchini, eggplant, tomatoes, pigeon peas, onions, green onions, garlic tops, parsley, celery, thyme, rosemary, peppers, garlic, ginger, turmeric, and any of a vast variety of other seasonal edibles are ready to add to the dish. I still purchase bread, wine, meat, and cheese at the store, but having a steady supply of other ingredients from the earth is incredible. Having fresh produce available to use in cooking is way more comfortable than shopping for it, way cheaper than buying it, and as flavorful and fragrant as you can get. In a food forest, many different foods are ripening in different seasons, depending on what you plant. Your body receives sunlight, energy, water, and minerals from eating forest-grown food, and that equates to satisfaction with your meal. We often talk about multiple streams of income. A food forest provides multiple streams of food income. It's a joyful experience to meander through the shade of great fruit and nut trees and into the sunny meadows, breathing in the fresh, fragrant air and feeling the fragrant breeze blowing across your skin. The birds sing joyful songs all day long for your listening pleasure. Soon you begin to experience profound gratitude as you realize that our Mother Earth gives us everything we have and in infinitely expanding abundance. All our food, air, water, and fire, even the ground we stand on, is a gift provided by Mother Earth. We scarcely understand the magnitude of the abundance. Because of this great abundance, we feel happy when we see the wildlife enjoying some of the harvests, because they are here to eat from the garden too. Once you begin to imagine that this life really could happen to you, that you could live in a food forest with a food forest in your backyard, then you can start to make it happen. By living and working in harmony with our generous, life-giving planet, you have everything to gain and nothing to lose. You receive infinite abundance when you respect, honor, and learn essential truths from this miraculous living globe upon which we all find ourselves living. I'm writing this book to help you and your family and to bring attention to the infinite abundance of Mother Earth at the same time. Why? Because I believe that food forests are a vital key to a healthy planet. Think about the freedom and abundance for all of us earth-dwelling life forms if we have unlimited free food and robust health when we eat it. It's a clear choice. Let's choose the path of wisdom and life. I heard a story about how a long time ago, African people used to grow food forests. They planted valuable crops all around their homes. One day, some corporate farmers came in and knocked down the food forests, tilled the soil, and then planted fields of monocrops for their corporate farms. Bah humbug! The people lost access to their food supplies. Monocrop. If you don't know what monocrop is, it means planting all one crop in a large field, like corporate farms of this modern age. Monocrop, or the plural is monocrops. Quote, a cultivated crop that does not rotate with other crops in a particular field or area. Such as bananas are grown in a monocrop system for commercial production. So by growing a patch of food for yourself like the African people in the story, you will increase in wealth and health. And this part right here is not in the book, but I'm going to add it, that I just learned that the Amazon rainforest was actually planted by humans. And they found their society underneath the rainforest. And that's why there's so many important, valuable food and other medicinal or useful crops growing in the rainforest. So we can still plant food forests, and they can turn out to be long-lasting like the Amazon rainforest. And the Amazon rainforest also speaks to the fact that forests can create water. When you plant trees, it can create water in your land. So that's just an aside that wasn't in this book, but I wanted to add that here. So for as long as we can remember, people have been fighting against tyranny and oppression to become free. And still today we fight the same fight. I suggest we start a revolution, not with violence, but today let us fight our battles by growing beautiful food forests. I invite you to join me in enjoying nature's infinite abundance. You might think that starting a new food forest sounds too hard or like too much work, but growing a food forest is fun especially if you love being in nature. So imagine how you can live a healthy, joyful life as you create your food forest. Your healthiest life includes fresh, healthy food which grew in living soil, picked straight from your garden, and eaten joyfully and quickly. I give you this food for thought. If you would like to find fresh, healthy food just outside your door and ready to eat any time, then a food forest is the path to abundance for you, my friend. I'm so glad you're reading this book that I wrote for you, dear heart. What makes us an extended family is that we are all living stardust, all born of Mother Earth's expanding abundance of life. And from a song sung by Joni Mitchell, we are stardust, billion-year-old carbon. We are golden, caught in the devil's bargain, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. Those are lyrics from a song by Joni Mitchell. The forest garden is our path to infinite abundance, food freedom, physical health, and well-being for all life forms, including Mother Earth. So what is a forest? Forest can be either a noun or a verb. Here are Google's definitions of the noun form and the verb form. The noun forest means a large area covered chiefly with trees and undergrowth, such as in the phrases a pine forest or much of Europe was covered with forest. There are many synonyms for the word forest, including woods, woodland, timberland, trees, bush, plantation, jungle, rainforest, pinewood, greenwood, taiga, boreal forest, Carolinian forest, Acadian forest, and I would like to add food forest. Here is how you can use the noun forest in daily life. I love eating from my food forest, or you will love growing a food forest as a source of fresh food, or we all grow food forests near our homes. Now the verb forest means to cover the land with forest, to plant with trees, to create a forested area. Here is how to use the verb forest in daily life. I forest, you forest, he forests, she forests, they forest, we all forest. Alternatively, in conversation, you might say, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm food foresting." "Lucky you, I wish I were food foresting too." Or you might say, "What did you do on your vacation?" "I had an excellent time. I food forested." "Really? Where did you food forest?" "Over at my cousin's house. They have a big yard and we had fun food foresting over there last weekend." "Wow, I wish I could learn to food forest." "Great, then you've come to the right place because Tutu is here to teach you how to food forest. Yay! The origin of the word forest originally from the word forest, F-O-R-I-S, denoted outside. Later, forest denoted a wooded area kept for hunting. The Latin words forestus silva literally meant outside wood. A forest consists of trees and undergrowth outside, where you see tall trees reaching for the sky, with shorter trees sheltered among them. You see leafy little plants and ground covers growing in shady and sunny spots. You smell the tree aromas and inhale the fresh air full of oxygen. You see or hear birds and other animals that live in the forest. When you're quiet and still in a forest, you soon realize that something is different. And what is that difference? No human workers are there working their day jobs. No one is planting new plants, fertilizing, watering, plowing, tilling, spraying, or trying to control the wildlife. No one is doing any jobs to make the forest grow. Forests grow the densest biomass on planet Earth with no help. Okay, go ahead and breathe. Let that sink in. I give you this food for thought. Easily, a forest grows according to natural principles without help from human work. So, what is a food forest? Food forests are like forests, but they grow a variety of food-bearing trees, food-bearing bushes, and edible ground covers in a community, just like in a natural woodlands. Here's the big difference between a forest and a food forest. You get to choose what grows in your food forest. Think of the possibilities. You get to choose what you love to eat and which flowers or lumber are available or valuable to you. You get to decide which tall food trees will grow as an overstory windbreak and which shorter food-producing trees will grow in the shelter of the taller trees. You choose which berry bushes and berry vines, herbs, ground covers, and root crops will grow. You can pick whatever you like to eat that grows in your area. In any food forest, there will be lots and lots of flowers with different colors and shapes and fragrances, because fruits, nuts, and seeds all grow out of flowers. Here are some questions you might be asking, and I'll give you the short answers here. Question: if natural forests grow on their own, then do food forests grow on their own? Answer: once established, yes, they certainly do. In the beginning, you can speed the process enormously by planting trees and seeds and caring for them while they are young. Question: since natural forests don't require our help with tilling, watering, plowing, fertilizing, or spraying of insecticides, fungicides, or herbicides, or controlling wildlife, do food forests need our help with those things? Answer: in establishing a new food forest, we do water, fertilize, and manage wildlife. But once well established, a food forest will grow on its own without human help. Question: can I easily grow food by imitating a natural forest? Answer: yes. It is quite easy to start and more natural over time because trees live long lives and seeds plant themselves. Question: why and how do food forests grow on their own? Answer: plants can multiply in many ways. They can expand fractally through roots and stems and exponentially by producing seeds. Question: since forests easily grow the densest biomass on Earth, do food forests grow the highest density of food in your yard? Answer: yes. Food forests grow a large variety of foods in a small space because the plants grow together as a community. There are 9 layers or heights where plants can grow in the same area. From below ground to the very tallest trees, there's a level for every plant. Okay, food forest sounds like food for us. Say it out loud, please. Food forest, food forest, food forest. Now say it like this. Food for us, food for us, food for us. Yay, that was fun. My friend, your food forest is waiting for you to plant something you love and grow it. I give you this food for thought. Food forests like to grow, given a chance. Once established, a food forest will sustain and replicate itself. Oh, here's the tale of monocropper and food forester. Here's a sad tale about a farmer named Monocropper who thought up a plan to earn lots of money by growing such a massive amount of one crop that he could sell his harvest far and wide. First, he needed to purchase a fancy new tractor to use for pulling out the trees that were growing where he wanted to make his field and drag the trees away. He would need the tractor again when he was ready to till the whole crop field in straight lines. So Monocropper bought the expensive tractor, pulled out the trees, dragged them away, and tilled the whole field in straight lines. This way, Monocropper reasoned, he would have full sunlight on his crop all the time. Then he needed to purchase seeds to plant in his field. So he bought the latest modernized seeds from the prominent experts and planted one seed every few inches up and down every row in his whole field. As his crop began to grow, Monocropper noticed his plants looking rather pale and sickly. Soon his problem became apparent. All the plants in his field required the same soil nutrients to grow. So every plant in his crop had to compete with neighboring plants for the same dwindling supply of available nutrients. Excuse me. You see, in Monocropper's field, all the plants were started at the same time and mature at the same pace. So the entire crop of plants all requires the same nutrients all at the same time. Because his plants competed with one another for nutrition to grow, the law of supply and demand dictates that the plants would consume and deplete those nutrients from the soil, unless Monocropper added more nutrients into the ground. Poor Monocropper got to work fixing this problem. He found a way to add more of the necessary nutrients into the soil to keep the plants growing. His solution was to purchase lab-created fertilizer blends and apply those to the soil. Poor Monocropper, imagine him carefully measuring, diluting, and applying his blend in recommended amounts, because if one doesn't measure and mix correctly, the fertilizer will burn the crop. He worked to get that blend right and evenly apply the right amount to every area of the field. What a nerve-wracking task for poor Monocropper, because if he messed up, he would lose his crop. He decided to purchase a new spraying attachment for his tractor so he could drive the tractor through his field while spraying the fertilizer blend. Although he spent much money on the tractor equipment, the seeds, and the fertilizer, Monocropper considered those as necessary costs of doing business on a farm. Still, he hoped to make more than enough money to pay for everything once he sold his harvest. Poor Monocropper didn't realize it, but over at the lab, where they blend up fertilizer mixtures that he purchased, they add only a few kinds of the many nutrients that plants love. Even though the laboratory blends tried to duplicate nature, they missed essential components. The lab-created fertilizer blends exclude a widely diverse set of micronutrients and microbiota that are part of authentic plant food. Still, Monocropper considered the fertilizer blends to be his best choice and a good investment. Poor Monocropper, maybe nobody explained to him the definition of authentic plant food. Definition of authentic plant food: waste byproducts from living biota and decomposing parts of deceased biota. And remember, biota is the set of all plant and animal life forms. Imagine that a fruiting tree can use decomposed parts of last year's fruits, leaves, and stems as components for new growth. How do the parts decompose? Many biota work together to decompose plant parts, from rodents to insects to earthworms to tiny soil microbes like bacteria and fungi and mold. Fortunately, Monocropper's neighbor down the road, another grower named Food Forester, learned how to grow food crops without the problem of limited soil nutrients. Food Forester planted a widely diverse selection of plants, everything from tall fruit and nut trees down to underground root crops like carrots and onions, and allowed them to grow together into a forest of food, which became a unified, self-regulating community of plant and animal biota that generates nutrients for itself, by itself, automatically, and grows food for human beings and wildlife automatically, generation after generation. Some of Food Forester's plants have roots that grow deep into the soil and bring up nutrients to the surface for other plants to use. Some of her plants crawl along over the forest floor, using nutrients from the mulch to grow new crops on the ground level. Lucky Food Forester, her plants grow nutrient-dense leaves with the help of the healthy soil biota and the deep soil minerals and light energy from the sky and carbon dioxide from the air. When those nutrient-dense leaves fall to the ground, they pass their nutrients on to the surface plants and to the soil-dwelling biota, who help decompose the leaves into food for the next generation of leaves to use. Each of the diverse plant varieties in Food Forester's garden adds a unique set of nutrients to the garden soil upon decomposing at the end of life. Various nutrients from various sources cover all the land. Nothing goes to waste, and nothing more is needed. Lucky Food Forester, she doesn't have to purchase lab-produced fertilizer blends and apply them meticulously with expensive machinery, because she allows the plant material to decompose on the soil surface and provide authentic plant food and safe dwelling places for soil biota. Her probiotic food forest community recycles the dead parts back into nutrients for the next generation of living plants. Food Forester watches her crops grow abundant harvests year-round and has lots of time for other things besides cultivating food crops, like cooking and baking, creating fun projects, learning new things in online classes, reading, writing, and running a business, since the work of the biota ultimately grows food for us in a food forest. I give you this food for thought. Death supports life. Life supports death. They're like two sides of the same coin. Poor monocropper, just when he thought he had covered all the bases, crop-eating insects invaded his field and got right to work, breaking down the unhealthy plants. Now please don't get angry at the insects, because they are helpers too. They quickly begin decomposing the sickly plants to create authentic plant food for the next generation of seedlings. The insects scurried from one plant to another and another. Poor monocropper, with insects breaking down and recycling his sickly plants, like paramedics of the sick garden, he became discouraged and disheartened. But he didn't give up. After spending so much money on equipment, labor, seeds, and fertilizers, he gathered up more fortitude and set out to prevent this crop loss and any more crop losses in the future. He decided to battle and kill those insects. Sadly, back to the store he went to purchase insecticides to kill the insects and fungicides to kill fungi and some antibiotics to kill microbiota. He felt prepared for the future, but still, he wondered why it was so dang hard to grow food on this planet. Wearily, he trudged back to work on his farm. I give you this food for thought. Are you warring against Mother Earth's beautifully designed biotic system? Mother Earth will win. Luckily, Food Forester's method of growing food eliminates the, quote, pest problem, unquote. Diverse, thriving plants create a welcoming habitat for predators and prey. Ladybugs, praying mantises, spiders, lizards, and birds all coexist in the food forest, keeping each other's populations in balance. Many plant-eating insects can't fly or travel well, so when they show up at Food Forester's garden, the scents and colors of various plants distract them in many directions. They can't focus in on breaking down a large area of the same plants as they can in monocroppers grow because of the diversity of all ages and stages of plants in the forest. Generally, food forest plants will be healthy and green and unattractive to decomposing insects. However, even in the food forest, there are times when plants die and need to decompose. When plant parts drop off and die, they are ready to return to the soil. Those plants will be processed into authentic plant food by the decomposing biota. A team of decomposers lives for the very purpose of breaking down any dead and dying plants into usable material for the next generation of plants. That's their job. They primarily decompose suffering plants, not healthy plants. They digest green parts and brown parts and return those into the earth in the post-digested form as they deposit their bodily waste back into the soil community. If you didn't get that, when they poop out what they eat, that becomes the fertilizer. Poor monocropper, he discovered another problem with his farm. His field gets extremely hot and extremely cold, depending on the temperature, and howling winds batter and blow dry his plants. Head hanging low, monocropper went back to the store to purchase enough shade cloths to cover his whole field in sunscreen fabric for heat waves, and enough freeze cloths to cover it with frost protection during cold snaps. Then he found a place to store the cover cloths nearby in case of emergency. Luckily, plants growing in Food Forester's forest setting naturally receive protection from extreme temperatures and buffeting winds by the trees and other plants around them, and by the organic material mulch covering the soil on the food forest floor. As we leave monocropper, he's still trying to figure out what to do. And we have yet to see how his story ends. Food Forester observed that biota with different functions and strengths benefit from each other's presence in the garden. Deciduous plants provide shade in summer and sun in winter, while ground-covering plants anchor the soil, preventing erosion. Soil microbes help fix nitrogen from the air, while deep-rooted plants collect soil minerals. Food Forester imagines that there are many yet undiscovered benefits occurring in a forest where various plants live together harmoniously. From Food Forester's point of view, the plants are performing the very thing they were created to do, fulfilling their purpose, serving others, and mutually benefiting from living together in a community. In the human world, we wouldn't thrive or even survive as a society if everyone did the same job. Variety completes us and creates wholeness. We thrive best when we have diversity and live in a community where we get along and help each other. As individuals express their unique vision and talent, we all benefit. Food Forester learned the truth about natural abundance from observing a forest. Diversity creates healthy plant communities. I give you this food for thought. The most miraculous takeaway of all is that the entire community of biota work together in concert to grow food for us human beings. Your imagination, okay, here's the next chapter, imagine. Your imagination is the highest creative faculty you possess. We humans are born knowing how to use our imaginations. Little children naturally imagine, creating fantastic visions in their mind's eye and experiencing them as if they are real. We humans can get lost in our dream worlds that take us anywhere we want to go. Using your imagination exercises this phenomenal mental faculty as you begin to create a vision for how you want to live. Look around you at the belongings in your home and situations in your life that you imagined and then later manifested as a part of your life. Everything we have was once an idea created in the imagination of an individual. Think of imagination as vibration on a conscious level. We were created in God's image, which is the root word of imagination, to use our imaginations as our Creator does. Everyone is creative, and no one is more creative than others. There's a creative power that is flowing in you and through you. Certain cameras and certain people can see the energy flowing around your body like an aura. Living as we do in the matrix programming of schoolwork and career work, we tend to forget sometimes how to use our imaginations as we dutifully perform the tasks set before us. We could all benefit from a lot of free time to imagine and create beauty in our lives. Life can and will get better every day through using your imagination. Remember this phrase, the greatest nation in the world is the imagination. It may have been a long time since you imagined anything, but let's do a fun imagination exercise here. Imagine that you are in a food forest and that everything you see around you is growing delicious fruits, nuts, berries, seeds, and leaves that you could pluck and eat. Like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, everything is edible. Some of the fruits and nuts won't be ripe for a while yet, but others are ripe and ready to eat. Imagine finding nuts or fruits on the forest floor, waiting for you to pick them up and eat them. What do you imagine growing around you? Perhaps potatoes, garlic, and onions. Maybe apples, pears, cherries, bananas, or pomegranates. Possibly cannabis or tobacco for traditional healing, or hops for your beer. Perhaps you imagine grapes for making wine and champagne, or cooking herbs and spices for your favorite recipes, such as rosemary, thyme, parsley, celery, and cilantro. Perhaps it's pumpkins and pecans for pies, or tomatoes and peppers for salsa, or melons for snacking. Maybe all of the above and more. Let your imagination visualize the foods you would like to see growing around you. Imagine reaching out and picking ripe hanging fruit and taking a bite. Imagine that it's more delicious and brightly flavored than any fruit you've ever tasted before. Imagine the juice dripping off the fruit. As you take another bite, imagine inhaling the beautiful fragrance of the fruit. Imagine your freshly picked food forest produce tastes especially vibrant due to growing in nutrient-dense living soil, where it has everything it needs to develop correctly. Imagine yourself enjoying the moment, relaxing and feeling happy. Now imagine picking and tasting some green leaves and discovering that they are delicious too. Imagine fresh new green shoots of onion, garlic, mint, rosemary, thyme, spinach, nasturtium, lettuce, and myriads of other green edible plants, delighting your senses with their unique fragrances and flavors. Imagine your body feeling more relaxed as the birds serenade you, and the sun shining warmly on your back as a fragrant breeze blows across your face. Imagine a feeling of peacefulness wash over you that you haven't felt before, and that makes you want to stay there and relax and unwind. Imagine feeling surrounded by abundance because there's more than enough food for you and plenty to share. Then begin to imagine enjoying the experience with your friends and family and picking some fresh produce to use in your cooking in your next meal. Now imagine that your body begins to feel active, energetic, and healthy. You like the feeling of energy invigorating your body. You keep walking and observing that the bushes and vines growing among the trees also produce refreshing fruits, seeds, and berries for you to eat as you walk along. Some taste sweet, some taste tart, some are crunchy, and some are soft. Most are juicy and quench your thirst, too. Imagine that you become familiar with the various plants and learn to recognize them when you see them growing as a result of having tasted their produce. Imagine that you begin to observe the ground under your feet, realizing that even the ground-covering plants have delicate leaves, flowers, or berries to nibble on. Imagine that you bend down and pull up a flowering plant to discover that its root is a bright orange carrot. You realize that edible roots are growing underground too. Not only carrots, but also beets, onions, potatoes, yams, ginger, turmeric, and garlic. What an exciting and delicious journey you just experienced in your imagination. You just imagined being in a food forest. Yay! That's what it's like in a food forest. A combination of the majesty of a forest with the practicality of growing food. Growing food forests is the best way to grow food. Other names for growing food like this include agroforestry, sustainable permaculture, biodynamic gardens, biodiversity, and regenerative agriculture. I use the name food forest, but I also really like the terms Garden of Eden, Garden of Infinite Abundance, and Paradise. People in countries worldwide still grow food forests as they have done for generations. This practice is our heritage and our sustainable future. We have tried the method of having a few farmers grow food for everyone, but commercial farming methods, along with the practice of shipping produce worldwide, pollute Mother Earth. Creating your food forest benefits our environment. Food forest growing solves so many problems and can be scaled down to a container garden, a small patio, a large backyard, up to large acreage. Modern farmers can grow diverse crops using food forest methods. This book is for your family home, my friend. Food forests make fabulous family home gardens because they provide a vast variety of produce growing compactly together. You don't have to have much space for cultivating a variety of crops. Imagine your land producing food, wood, fragrances, healing and first aid plants, homes for wildlife, dignified, pleasant labor for exercise, and a peaceful coexistence with many life forms. Imagination is the bridge from the now to the divine possibility in your mind. I give you this food for thought. When you grow a food forest, you will have healthy food to eat without much work on your part. 22 things to love about food forests. A food forest offers, number 1. A food forest offers you an intriguing connection to the world of nature. Seeing birds enjoying themselves and hearing them sing as you walk among the living, growing, food-producing tree and plant biota, you develop a sense of wonder at the complex network of life that you are walking among. You begin to get a sense of how many creatures are working together out there to grow food for themselves and for you. Number 2, a food forest system offers a chance to cooperate with nature. Nature's forces do the work of growing, but you get to choose what to plant and cultivate what you like in the system. It's a majestically powerful life force that we get to interact with while we live on this planet. Number 3, a food forest merges the cultivated plants, or the garden, with the wild forest biota, offering food for the body and soul, as well as for multitudes of wildlife species. Number 4, a food forest cleans the air by collecting dust from the sky, which falls to the ground after a rain. Number 5, a food forest fills the air with oxygen by the process of photosynthesis, of taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. Number 6, A food forest moderates hot and cold temperatures, cooling the environment in hot weather and warming the atmosphere in cold weather. Number 7, a food forest slows down strong winds by cutting the wind current with its tree branches and leaves. Number 8, a food forest feeds and houses innumerable species of wild biota, and since they all share space in the food forest, no one single type gets to overpopulate and take over the system. Having all those different species living together creates a balanced population. Number 9, a food forest waters itself by storing its water in the soil. When rainwater falls on leaves and branches, it runs down the trunks of trees and into the ground under the tree. Try observing how plants' designs can catch and divert water into their soil. When more plants grow in the land, more water stays in the ground, and less water runs off. Number 10, a food forest fertilizes itself by accumulating organic material on the soil surface, which then feeds the soil biota, which then turns around and feeds the plant biota in a complete recycling pattern. Number 11, a food forest keeps your leaves from going to the landfill. Instead of raking them up and putting them in bags and throwing them away, you will use your leaves to enhance your soil. Number 12, a food forest provides food, healing, and first aid plants, building supplies, attractive flowers, and lovely fragrances for humans and biota to enjoy. Number 13, a food forest grows stronger and produces more abundance over time, expanding both in individual plants and as a whole food forest community. Number 14, a food forest takes on a life of its own as a cohesive, unified entity that works together in ways that are very complex and beautiful. Number 15, a food forest provides natural education to observers. People who go in and quietly observe the forest will learn truths about the natural laws of creation. Number 16, a food forest allows the gardener to experience solitude. When you are in your food forest, there's a tremendous opportunity to meditate and to be at one with nature. It's a peaceful setting where you can go inward, listen to yourself think, feel from your heart, and tune into your gut. It provides a backdrop for moments of quiet outside of the noise and distractions around us. Number 17, a food forest provides a place to perform the mild physical exercise of tending the garden. Ages 2 to 92 can enjoy working in the garden while taking in the sunshine and vibrant growing beauty. Moving your muscles never felt so fun and relaxing. Number 18, a food forest enriches the grower who tends to it by providing beauty, food, juice, freshness, nutrients, and the wonder of forest life. It feels like your body is imbued with healthy life force when you eat the fruit of the forest. Number 19, a food forest enriches the entire planet by cleaning the air and the water and sending its beautiful seeds out farther and farther, revitalizing the whole earth. We can speed this up when we grow food forests wherever we are around the world. Number 20, a food forest is the easiest way to grow the best food and healing plants. Food and healing blur together in my view because what we eat from the food forest is so wholesome and nutritious that our bodies receive the nutrients they need to grow and heal. Microorganisms that live in the soil also live in our bodies. Number 21, a food forest is an alternative food source, as healthy food gets harder and harder to find in big stores. Even organic produce from the grocery store may have, quote, safe, unquote, pesticides or herbicides. Organic produce costs much more than regular old chemical-laden produce. Something's wrong with that. you can purchase the chemical lab food cheaply or pay more for safer food. My friend, you can grow the freshest, healthiest, safest food practically for free. And number 22, here is your opportunity to turn a problem into a solution. Restore your family's health and our Mother Earth's health at the same time by growing your food forest. Win, win, win. I give you this food for thought. If people all around the world will create food forests, we can fend off the perils of toxicity and lack and bring on the joys of peace and abundance. Be a responsible and caring member of every community to which you belong, including the global human family and the exquisite ecosystem we call Earth. Okay, restore health to yourself, restore health to Mother Earth. My friend, if you want to eat the freshest, most nutrient-dense food available, then a food forest is for you. If you want to live on a healthy planet, then a food forest is for you. We've all heard that nutritious foods are good for our bodies. Throughout time, from the beginning of this planet until the last 100 years or so, people have eaten food that grows on planet Earth. In history, we didn't eat food from a factory made with chemicals from a laboratory. Pets ate what their people ate and what they could catch or harvest in nature. Our diets have wandered away from eating living garden food and toward eating manufactured food, and you can see that our bodies are getting more overweight and diseased. I believe the correlation is because our bodies aren't getting the nutrients they need from manufactured foods. So even after we eat a whole bowl of processed food product, our nutrition needs are still not satisfied. We crave something more, so we eat more. We become overweight and malnourished at the same time. That isn't right. Some of the stuff in manufactured food is not even meant to be in our bodies. Here's a good goal for you. Eat some fresh living food every day. If you watch TV, you will see advertisements encouraging you to buy food from factories and other ads encouraging you to go to the doctor to get drugs to make you feel better because you're sick from eating food from the factories. My friend, get out of the loop of big pharma and lab manufactured food. It's a scam. Get back into nature, which is our earthly inheritance and our source of God-given abundance. With the food forest, you can stop working so hard to earn money to buy food that's killing you and pharmaceutical drugs that are doing you no favors either. What is the problem with factory farm soil? It's been talked about for almost a century now that our farm produce is getting less nutritious over time. I read this pamphlet from the United States Senate in 1936 called Modern Miracle Men. At least as far back as 1936, the Senate of the United States government recognized that our soil lacked the minerals necessary for growing healthy food. The United Nations also addressed the problem of malnutrition because poor soils produce poor food. Why is the factory farm soil poor? Because farm soils get tilled. Tilling destroys the soil biota and blows minerals up into the air as dust. Because of the way we grow food on factory farms, our soil gets depleted repeatedly. Farmers try to help by adding more chemical enhancements to the ground to provide minerals to improve their food. Then they also apply pesticides to kill insects, fungicides to kill fungi, and herbicides to kill weeds. With all that killing going on, it's a wonder anything grows there at all. Despite all the hard work that farmers put into growing our food, factory farm produce contains less nutrition at harvest, is then stored, packaged, and shipped far away, and loses more nutrients during travel time to market. The produce from the grocery stores doesn't taste as flavorful as freshly picked produce and contains less juice and fewer nutrients. A scientific assessment of modern produce from the Oxford a scientific assessment of modern produce from the Oxford Academic Journal of Experimental Botany claims we are in a global micronutrient crisis. Humans require at least 49 nutrients to meet their, well, this is a quote from their journal. Quote, humans require at least 49 nutrients to meet their metabolic needs. Inadequate consumption of even one of these nutrients will result in adverse metabolic disturbances, leading to sickness, poor health, impaired development in children, and large economic costs to society. If agricultural systems fail to provide enough products containing adequate quantities of all nutrients during all seasons, dysfunctional food systems result that cannot support healthy lives. Unfortunately, this is the case for many agricultural systems. Nearly 2/3 of all deaths of children are associated with nutritional deficiencies, many from micronutrient deficiencies. Marginal intakes of micronutrients have been shown to contribute to increased morbidity and mortality rates, diminished livelihoods, and adverse effects on learning ability, development, and growth in infants and children. Unquote. Excuse me. The solution offered by science and corporate culture is to work harder to add more minerals to the soil and to try hard to modify the crops they grow so they will have more micronutrients. Working harder to fix the process of factory farming by tinkering with various genetic materials in laboratories to make them able to take up laboratory nutrient blends sounds like a load of horse manure to me. What a mess we have on our hands, but the way out of this mess is clear. It's called the food forest path. It's our path to infinite abundance. Question: where did plants get food before industrialized farming and genetic modification of organisms? Answer: from other plants. When a plant dies, forest biota decomposes the plant into essential components that fertilize the next generation of plants. What an amazingly designed system. A plant's dead remains consist of the exact materials that are needed by new plants to grow new biomass, and decomposing releases the nutrients for use by the next generation of plants. This design is so simple and brilliant, only God could have created it. Aristotle wrote, "Nature operates in the shortest way possible." Perfect design is the reason why no one fertilizes a forest, yet the forests and jungles grow the densest plant biomass on Earth. Just by looking at a plant, you can see instantly whether the plant is growing in nutrient-rich soil or not. Healthy plants seem to glow with life. Growing food in healthy soil will provide you with the vitamins and minerals we know about, as well as with the micronutrients and all the complex nuances of plant nutrition that we still don't understand. A healthy life is yours if you merely follow nature. Growing food in a food forest will provide you with the most nutrient-dense food available. The soil biota unlocks the nutrients for the plants to take up, plain and simple. I give you this food for thought. If you do not change direction, you may end up where you are heading. Okay, grow your food forest wherever you live on planet Earth. You can grow a food forest in a hot desert climate or a cold mountain climate. You can grow a food forest in any region of the world. You can grow a food forest in sandy soil or clay soil, acidic soil or alkaline soil. Every type of soil will improve by having a food forest planted on it. You can grow a mini food forest in a pot on your balcony or a small food forest in a small strip of land, like alongside a sidewalk or patio. You can grow a food forest in a small or large backyard or front yard. If you have a considerable amount of land, you can grow a food forest there too. Here are some inspiring stories of food forests grown in extreme climates. The famous Krametterhof food forest is on top of a snowy Alp in Austria, grown by Sepp Holzer. Fish ponds, productive terraces, fruit trees, and grazing animals characterize the lush landscape in one of Europe's oldest and most well-established permaculture farms. Some food forests are in the desert. Look up Greening the Desert or Regreening the Desert for the amazing transformations food forests make in the desert. Wherever you are, the principles of growing forests will result in a much better lifestyle. A forest man planted a forest in India. Since the 1970s, Majuli Islander Yadav Payang has been planting trees to save his island. His forest has transformed what was once a barren wasteland into a lush oasis. Search YouTube Forest Man. These people all prove that when there's a will, there's a way. When you decide that you would like to grow a food forest, then take whatever baby steps you can in the direction of your dream. Plant one tree to get started and add some useful plants around it to form a guild. A guild is a grouping of plants that support each other. Choose to believe that a better world is possible and look for opportunities to create it now. If more people everywhere around the world grow forests of food, we can go a long way toward healing our planet and providing healthy habitats for animals and people. I hope for a future with food forests growing everywhere on a healthy planet Earth, where clean water flows and happy people enjoy plenty of food, love for one another, lots of laughter, and a spirit of cooperation as a big, beautiful family of human beings. I give you this food for thought. Choices either give power or take power, enhance the spirit or drain the spirit. One atom is as purposeful as our entire planet. All of us are one. And look for my second book, which is called The 8-Step Path to Creating a Food Forest. Step into Nature's Infinite Abundance. And that is book 2 in the Food Forest series. There's also my online course, Food Forest University. And I'm going to be making book 3 a book about how to live in harmony with Mother Earth and save money in a third book, which is upcoming. So this book is dedicated to my dear husband and best friend Eric Sines and the multitudes of teachers who taught me their powerful lessons and encouraged me and strengthened me throughout my life on earth. Family and friends, Paul Gauci and the Back to Eden film, Jeff Lawton, Paul Wheaton, Ernst Goetsch and the Life in Syntropy film, Jesus, Yogananda, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Oprah, Joel Osteen, Mike Dooley, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, and too many others to name them all. I am eternally grateful. With rainbow-colored light and love, I daily surround and infuse Mother Earth through my prayers and imagination. I anchor the light of nature's infinite abundance in this book, which birthed itself through me. The words in this book, just like seeds, are being planted in you. Grow and nurture the infinitely abundant seeds. Here's to the food forests you will grow, the freedom you will achieve, and the health and wealth in infinite abundance that you will experience. May all the world grow in abundant food forests and all the people live with love, light, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, and aloha. Let's sing, dance, laugh, and drink bubbly drinks as we are surrounded by infinite abundance and aloha. The end.